I need to report on what the Jesuits are doing to my mother. This is really, really sad. Um, I just went on a trip with my mother to visit my relatives, and during that trip, I could tell I was with my real mother. She was one of the few people on this trip who wasn't treating me like I was crazy. And she was behaving like my mother, the mother that I've known for the past year and a half. So every now and then, the Jesuits have replaced her with a Jesuit clone. And I can always tell when the Jesuit clone is there instead of my mother, even though my mother does tend to get hyped up and revved up about things. The Jesuit clone is like a raging fanatic when she contacts me. And she has absolutely no patience. She'll call me up on the phone and say, I need to talk to you right now. And it's like I have to drop everything I'm doing and just stand at attention for her. This is how the clone behaves. My real mother is more reasonable than this. You know, Dr. Bob Jones Sr. said, beware of unreasonable men. Good men are always reasonable. And I can always tell when I'm dealing with a Jesuit clone because they're always so unreasonable and so unfair and so crazy. What's really sad is that when I divorced my husband in 2001, I wanted to go be with Brent Spiner. And Brent Spiner was trying to get me. He really was. And Brent had wiretapped my phone, and I was talking to him on the phone and letting him know everything that was going on in my life. But he wasn't able to get me because he had Lori McBride, a Jesuit, in his life, and she was causing a lot of problems. And the Jesuits were killing people. They actually had an incident where Lori McBride blew up, I think, like one of her clones, and the car blew up. And they did this to intimidate Brent Spiner. It was like the Jesuits were giving Brent Spiner a silent message like, you try to get Gail, and we know how to kill. We know how to stop you from going to that woman you love. We're not going to let that Gail Schuler ruin our plans for world dominion. So, anyways, I kept trying to make it easy for Brent to come to me. And I ended up living with my mother because I had nowhere to go. I had no job. It took a lot of courage for me to divorce my husband. I had no job at that time. And so I had to stay with my mother because I didn't have anywhere to go. So I moved to Florida from Washington State to be with my mother. And right around the 2001 in the summer, I could tell that Brent was trying to come get me. He was working through my stepdad to try to come get me. And but I was getting kind of discouraged because I could tell that the Jesuits were scaring him, that he was scared to marry me. I knew he wanted to marry me. I knew Brent Spiner was in love with me. And I didn't really want to live with my mother when I divorced. I wanted to be with Brent, but I had nowhere to go. And I was with my real mother, but something strange happened. Like in the summer of 2001, she went on a trip to Las Vegas, and then she came back. And from about that point on, she got a little bit more obsessive and more controlling with me and more bossy and more unreasonable. And like I would read my Bible in the mornings and she'd slam open my door around 8 in the morning. She says, get up, get up. You need to get your lazy butt out of bed and get something done. I mean, this is the way the Jesuit clone behaves. I said, I'm sorry, Mother. I spend time in the morning to read the Bible. And I'm going to read the Bible, and you're not going to interrupt me right now. She says, well, you live in this house, and as long as you're in this house, you get up out of that bed right now. You go look for a job. I says, can I please read the Bible for at least an hour first? She says, you don't need to read the Bible. You get up earlier to read the Bible. You get up now. And she used to come in there at 9 in the morning, you know. That's not my mother. Even though my mother may not ever, appreciate my Bible reading time, she would use that as not my mother. Well, I didn't realize it at the time. I thought it was just my mother going a little lulu, because we found out later when Vladimir Putin was able to contact me that my real mother got shipped to India and she was replaced with her Jesuit clone from about 2001 to about 2008. 2008. So we got my real mother back around 2008. And she was different. She was more reasonable, a little bit more calm, though my mother does tend to get a little hyped up. But she was more reasonable. The clone is absolutely unreasonable. You cannot reason with her at all. She's absolutely crazy. It's like she expects you to just drop everything and she's very controlling. And she gets vicious if you won't sit down and do what she wants. You know, it's like, anyways, we got my real mother back. But I noticed that we'd have brief interludes where she started acting like that crazy woman that I lived with that's why I had to move out of the house into my apartment, because I couldn't stand living with her. I mean, barging into my room at 8 in the morning, ordering me to get up and start looking for a job right away, not even giving me time to read my Bible. And she started going into my files, or somebody was. I don't know. And things were mysteriously missing from my room. And so I said, I got to get out of here, man. This is really getting out of hand. I've got to get out of here. So I moved out. And that sort of worked. But then, and my men kept trying to get money to me, but the Jesuits kept stealing it. They'd get postal workers and they wouldn't let the money come to me. My writing is actually selling pretty good. Vladimir Putin's tried to get money to me. Well, to make a long story short, looks like my mother's been recently replaced with her clone again. She's calling me up, and she comes over to my place without any notice. She doesn't even give me time to get dressed or put on makeup or anything. And she just says, I came over here to talk about your website. You need to take that down. You're crazy. You need to go see a psychiatrist. I said, the website's been up for 2 years and all of a sudden you're worried about it? It's like, that is the Jesuit. She never, ever said anything like that before. The Jesuits are trying to isolate me from my family. That's what they're trying to do. And I believe that my real mother is being held hostage somewhere right now and that I'm dealing with the clone. So I would appreciate your prayers. But I'm just letting you know, it got so vicious that I said, if you don't leave, I'm going to call the police. I actually felt threatened by her. She would knock on my door like, bang, 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 bang. It's like the whole door would knock down. I said, excuse me. I said, I never wanted you here in the first place. You leave or I'm going to call the police. And a police officer actually showed up and I said, she's coming over here, bossing me around, telling me I need to take down my website. Because I mentioned Vladimir Putin on there, claiming the CIA is contacting her. And I said, this is crazy. I told my mother's clone, I said, why would the CIA contact me? Because if I'm really crazy, I'm not going to be a threat, right? They're going to have to lock me up in a loony bin. I said, I don't believe the CIA is contacting you. So, I'm just telling you. The Jesuits they've done something with my real mother, and I'm dealing with the clone right now. And they're trying to isolate me from my mother so that if I ever have an emergency in the future, I won't be able to get any help from her. And they're making it impossible for my men to give me money. They'll blow up the postal truck or whatever if it tries to come over here. They steal money in the mail, so I don't get it. Vladimir Putin tried to send me a pearl necklace, and we found out the postmaster's wife was wearing it. The postmaster turned out to be a Jesuit. So this is what we're dealing with, folks. You say, you're crazy. Your writings are good. Actually, my writings are selling well. I even know a friend of mine who bought my writing. So I contacted my publisher and said, why am I not getting the proceeds to my writings when I know friends of mine who bought it and they claim they bought it and I'm not getting it? No answer. Jesuits are stealing it. Anyways, I write for Jesus Christ and I'll be a millionaire in the next life. But I'm just letting you know what's going on with my mother right now. Well, this police officer showed up and I let him know about my mother. And we actually had a pretty pleasant conversation. I said, what are you here for? He said, well, somebody from Walmart contacted and said they were worried about you. He said, do you know what day it is? I said, yeah, it's the 23rd. Do you know what month it is? Yeah, it's May. So the year, 2012. He says, well, do you have someone you need to see in case you're suicidal or you want to take your life? I said, sir, you don't need to worry about me. I'm not suicidal in the least. My mother's coming over here and trying to get me to see a psychiatrist. And, but she's claiming the CIA is after her. I think maybe she's the one who's a little, And so I said, I said, no. He said, well, do you have a doctor that you could see if you think that you need help? I said, sir, I haven't even thought about that because I don't need to see a doctor because I'm not crazy. I said, she's ordering me, coming over here, bossing me around, harassing me. And I told her I was going to call the police if she didn't leave. Anyways, folks, this is what the Jesuits are doing. My dear mother is somewhere being held hostage, I believe. And she's usually not this crazy. So I'm dealing with the clone. Just pray that that this clone gets arrested. I'm sure she's a Jesuit. And Jesuits do that. They replace my family members with clones so that they can destroy my reputation and isolate me from a real family member who could help me if I ever needed them. There's a verse in the Bible, Psalm 27:10. When my father and my mother forsake me, then the Lord will take me up.